you may be thinking. I have the book. I have never read it. The only reason why I was going into Dune was because of Denis Villeneuve, the cast, Zimmer's score, and Craig Fraser as DP. So how does the movie fare with my low expectations? Well, before I get into my thoughts, let me talk about the story for a bit. The plot of Dune follows a young man by the name of Paul Atreides. He has been born into a family whose father and mother are great leaders. They reign the house of Atreides. But when one day they have to move to one of the most dangerous parts of the world, they have to come together to defend their honor, leadership, family, and friends, and entirety of the house of Atreides from people attempting to take and regain their power. Like I said, my expectations were low. But this movie took all of it. It is as if it understood my hesitancies and not only comforted me and consoled me, but showed me into a light that I desperately didn't realize I needed. Straight up, this has got to be one of the greatest looking movies I have ever seen on the big screen. And when I say big screen, I saw this bad boy on an IMAX screen. That is the essential viewing experience. I have understand if you are a bit wary about the pandemic or you're immune compromised or you haven't gotten the vaccine yet, totally understand that. But if you do have the ability, check this out on the grandest screen you can. It isn't just the visuals that make this movie though. The story itself, the politics, the ideals, and the characters in this world are crafted in such a way that you manage to get equal time and presence with everyone involved. I was really worried that the movie was going to focus more on the action and perhaps the philosophical meanings of it all without really giving much tangible character depth, but I was completely wrong. In fact, this movie spends most of its time dealing within those dynamics with each character, and I honestly think, the more I think about it, Denis Villeneuve has managed to take all of these actors. This is one of the greatest ensembles ever. I mean, just to name a few, you got Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson, Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, Stellan Skarsgård. Who am I missing? I feel like I know I'm missing some people because the cast is so great, but each of them have a perfect moment to shine, and if they don't, I can definitely see that they will be in part 2, and this is very much a part 1. There isn't going to be a sequel. It is going to be a continuation of the story in this. It is as if you watched Fellowship of the Ring and then The Two Towers comes after, but the big difference is that when Fellowship of the Ring came out, there was already a guarantee and the production of The Two Towers and Return of the King. But with this, there may not be a second part and a conclusion to this story if it doesn't do well, which is an insane proposition to even think about. There is so many A-list stars, but really the person who drives it home is Denis Villeneuve. This has been his passion project for years, and he takes all of these actors and somehow manages to get these A-listers in probably their best roles. Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho serves as this mentor figure for Paul Atreides, this young man finding his own, and he gives this really tender side to Paul, who's this very naive individual, where you have Oscar Isaac's character as the father to Paul Atreides. He is a leading figure in who a man should be in Paul's eyes, because the father doesn't want his son to be a leader. His father wants his son to be whoever he wants him to be. His son comes first, then the idea of him becoming a leader is second, and that was like such a breaking of the conventional norm of like a leader father figure, and I thought that was amazing. And that can be said about so many of the other dynamics. There is grand action filmed to such a caliber of excellency by Craig Fraser. He has such an understanding of telling a story with a scale and magnitude such as Dune, but making the the characters seem like the biggest part of them. Now, with that being said, having seen it in IMAX, those moments of grand action serve as some of the best action I've ever seen shot, period. The major introduction to the sandworm, that sequence had me white knuckled. My audience was holding their breath. It was so intense, so shot to perfection. Every frame of this movie could be paused and put as the desktop wallpaper. And then you have beautiful Papa Hans Zimmer on score, doing what he does best, but in a very different way. He brings a sound that he has never done before, and it really is exceptional. It brings a whole new life to itself, but even the score feels incomplete, and that isn't a con, but this movie is a setup, but also a foundation for what is going to come in part 2. And by the end of it, I wasn't left angry that we couldn't see more. I was left excited. We live in a time where our voice matters, and the money that we have, if we put where our mouth is, can move volumes, and in this case, can grant us a concluding chapter to this story. I cannot tell you a better director suited for a story this big, but also this intimate. It is quite accessible too. Like I said, I hadn't read the Dune novel, nor had I seen the 80s mediocre mixed bag that I've heard it is. I went in as fresh of an eye as possible, and it wasn't complicated at all. I mean, it wasn't spoon-fed to you, but it was also given on a way that treated you like an adult, but was understandable. The best way that I could articulate how I felt throughout the duration of this movie was that scene in Ratatouille when Remy mixes the strawberry and the cheese together and has that like flavor explosion. Yeah, Dune is the strawberry and the cheese put in one, and it took me on a cerebral trip for 150 minutes. I was dazzled, I was lost. I want to be in this world. It is dingy, it is beautiful, it is vast, it is expansive, it is lush, it is everything, and I need a part 2. So even if you're wary about it, even if you want to see it, check it out for the sake of it being concluded. There isn't a guarantee. If this doesn't get greenlit for that final chapter, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about the uproar that is going to be caused. But everyone across the board in this film behind the camera does volumes. And I didn't even talk about Rebecca Ferguson, who is probably giving her best performance. Chalamet is great as Paul Atreides. Oscar Isaac is a fantastic fatherly figure. Jason Momoa is that great mentor. And that's like barely even scratching the surface of the actors on display. I will warn you, Zendaya is used more as a vessel for pushing the plot forward, but she isn't really used as a focal point in person. But like I said, she is in that group of characters that will have such big importance and reliance in that part 2. I couldn't even rank this amongst Denis Villeneuve's filmography. I mean, Blade Runner 2049 and Prisoners are two of my favorite films of all time, but it just feels wrong to even grade this movie. I will, because I want to judge it off the merits of this film, but the story is not finished. It is undone, and in a lot of ways, ranking it amongst a filmmaker's work that is closed and final just doesn't seem right. But with all that being said, I was dazzled by Dune. It has been ringing in my head like a sound that you can't get out, like a tune you are just stuck in your mind. It's engrossing, and I fully plan on actually reading this bad paperweight that I've been having for years. So yeah, with some incredible performances, some scene-stealing roles, invoking the best out of A-list actors in smaller parts is insane to think about. But with Denis Villeneuve having such master craftsmanship on display in a way that expresses grandiosity but knows the intimacy, he is the man that I would consider the most well-rounded, expensive, independent director. Hans Zimmer conducting one of his best pieces yet. It is a treat for the ears, and Greg Fraser offering a experiences to visually gush over frame by frame, I gotta give Dune a strong A. Have you seen Dune? What did you think? Are you excited for part 2? Let me know down in the comments. If you can, check this movie out in IMAX, please. I implore you. It is a movie that is made for a screen this big. Of course, I understand if you can't, but if you do, please let me know what you thought. I love each and every one of you guys. You mean the world to me. And as always, don't forget to take life